Wonderful. Well, good evening. I am Bill Brown. I'm the Director of New Faith Expressions for the Baltimore-Washington Conference, and my colleague, Reverend Dr. Rodney Smothers, who's the Director of Leadership and Congregational Development, enjoy hosting our Training Tuesdays. A couple of logistical items before we begin. I notice some of you are already raising your hands. You don't need to raise your hands. We'll lower those. If you have a question, please refer to the Q&A button somewhere on your device, and you can ask a question through the Q&A feature. You will also notice that the chat feature is disabled during tonight's broadcast, so if you have a question, use Q&A. Also, this is being recorded and will be available sometime this week on the conference website. So if you miss something, don't worry, it will be there. If there are people in your church who would benefit from watching this later, don't worry, it will be posted to the conference website later this week. So without further ado, we are going to jump in, and we are joined by the Dean of the Cabinet, District Superintendent from the Annapolis District, Reverend Rebecca Inaselli, who is going to welcome us and open us in prayer. Good evening, Rebecca. Welcome.
Good evening, Bill. Thank you, and welcome to everyone who is joining us for this time of learning around church conferences. Let us join together in a time of prayer. Bless the Lord, all you his hosts, you ministers of his who do his will. Bless the Lord, all you works of his, in all places of his dominion. Bless the Lord, O my soul. O God, we join with the psalmist as we bless your holy name with all that is within us. We thank you and we praise you. For this day you have granted to us and for the rest of the evening to come. For your humble servants who gather on this call, we thank you. For their leadership in the local church, for their love for all of your people, we are glad. Oh God, we ask you to bless this time of holy conferencing. We are exceedingly grateful for our district administrators and for all they do to help us to order the life of the church. And so, God, we ask you to open our hearts and minds to receive information today that will help us in our life together. May we be ever mindful that the work of the church conference is not just paperwork, but it represents the ministry and life of the people of God. You have entrusted us to live out the very mission of your Son, Jesus, our Christ. May all we do today be in furtherance of his work and in accordance with your will by the power of the Holy Spirit. In his precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you again to everyone who's joining us.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. It is going to be a good evening because we are in the capable hands of 4 of our district administrators. I'll let them introduce themselves and what district they serve, and then you all can jump right in to teaching us all about church conferences and how they will look this year.
Good evening, everyone. I am Willeen Kamara, and I serve the Annapolis District.
My name is John Gauthier. I serve the Baltimore Suburban District.
Christine Taylor. I serve the Baltimore Metropolitan District.
And I'm Tanya Bennett, and I serve the Frederick District.
It is all you now, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, so thank you everyone for joining us. We welcome you to this 2020 Church Conference training. Our objectives for the training today will be to look over the forms and worksheets on the website, to understand how to log into the self-service side of Arena, to distinguish between the church's username and personal usernames, and we will also show you how to update committee lists to ensure committee chairs have access to the reports and member lists. We will also walk through our church conference website and Arena. As you begin this church conference season, you should let the church members know the date, time, and the link for your church conference so that they can attend. Please print out the church conference checklist that will be available on the BWC website. It will be located under your district, or it will be located under the general church conference information link. The best way to track your reports for church conference is to print out that checklist and to work from there and know which reports will be completed. Your church should have a recording secretary, and at the church conference, the recording secretary should take the minutes. The minutes should document all the voting and general information that is discussed. They should then be uploaded to Arena 10 days after your church conference. A vote count should be taken when voting on candidates for ordained ministry. We will now walk through our church conference webpage. Please feel free to follow along with the PowerPoint if you have printed it out ahead of time. You will find the church conference webpage by going to our website, www.bwcumc.org. Hover over the resource link and click Church Conference Forms. On this page, you will find the church conference checklist. Again, use this as a guide to know what needs to be completed by October 1st. And October 1st is the deadline to submit all church conference reports. The checklist will tell you how to complete each report. It will tell you if the report needs to be signed and uploaded, or if it's electronically filled only. Signatures are required on the clergy compensation form, the clergy misconduct form, and please remember to answer all questions before signing and submitting the form, the certification of compliance report, the nominations report, and the inactive membership report. Schedules and agendas will be located on this page and will be added once they are completed. On the right, you will see the benefits information, which includes the 2021 Health Flex rates and pension information, the 2021 Clergy Pension and Medical Eligibility Chart and Pension Calculator. Also, you will see the equitable compensation information that will be added once it is available. As we go down, you will see the forms. These forms should be completed, signed, and uploaded in Arena. Please be sure to read all the instructions and answer all of the questions before uploading the documents. If a form does not apply to your church, please do not fill it out. You only need to complete the forms and reports that apply to your church. By the way, under the forms, you'll see the Laity Sexual Misconduct Questionnaire. This report must be completed each year by persons who work with children, youth, or special needs adults. You can print this form and make sure they answer every question and sign the form. Once completed, the forms need to be retained and locked in a cabinet at the church office or in the church office. These forms will not be submitted in Arena, and they do not need to be mailed to the district office. It's specifically for the church. You can review our BWC sexual ethics policies by hovering over resources, clicking the arrow next to BWC policies and procedures, then clicking on sexual ethics policy. Next are worksheets. You can use these worksheets to collect the necessary information to complete the reports in Arena. The worksheets are not to be mailed to the district office. These are only to provide help for you to collect the information before completing the Arena reports. And finally, we have the frequently asked questions section. Please read these before contacting your district administrator. A quick word about the church conference forms. All forms should be completed in Arena, and nothing should be mailed to the district office unless requested. Pastors, church administrators, or the designee responsible for managing and monitoring the church conference form's completion should log into Arena with the church's account this year. Committee chairs, certified lay servants, certified lay speakers, and certified lay ministers and pastors have access to pertinent information and forms by logging into their personal Arena accounts. Some items may be required. These items should have an asterisk and highlighted in red. You will not be allowed to submit the report unless all mandatory questions are answered and attachments are uploaded. Please make sure you read all of the instructions on every report before completing it. Again, the due date for all reports to be in Arena is October 1st. I will now turn over the additional portion of this presentation to our wonderful DA from Baltimore Suburban, John.
I'm going to hold you, John, because Willeen, your part of the presentation has already blown up our Q&A. And these are things that I think we could get out of the way right now. Someone's trying to follow along on the actual conference web, find the forms. Are we live yet with those?
Yes, the forms are live.
So where again do they look to find those forms?
So you hover over resources. Once you go to the BWC UMC website, you hover over resources and then scroll down to church conference forms. And you click on that and it'll take you directly to the church conference page with all of the forms on the page.
So to our friend Phil who asked that question, keep looking. If you don't find it, luckily you have a few weeks before everything's due, so keep looking. Also, you had a lot of items on that checklist. Is everything needed that's on the checklist, or is that just a general form? Some will be needed for some churches, some will be needed for other churches.
That is a general checklist, and we always urge each church to only submit and complete the forms that apply to their church. So if they do not have any candidates for ordained ministry, they would not fill out that form. If they don't have any certified lay servants, speakers, or ministers, they do not fill out that form. If they don't have anyone working with children, they don't have to fill out the laity sexual misconduct. So only fill out the forms that apply to your specific church.
And John, thank you for highlighting that for us again. Only fill out the forms that are needed for your church. If a church does an official background investigation for the sexual misconduct, do they still have to keep the paper copy?
Yes.
And last but not least, and you think about this, since many churches are not having any kind of in-person worship yet, how do they get signatures for these different forms?
That is a great question. So we have some churches that have utilized Adobe Sign. We'll also discuss that later on in the presentation as well. And if need be, if the churches do decide to have like a small gathering prior to or church council meeting prior to their church conference, if they want to have 1 or 2 people in one room sign and then upload the form, that can be a solution. But right now, I think the best way would be Adobe Sign. And then if the churches need assistance with that, then they can contact the district administrators on how to access that.
Thank you very much.
There is a really quick low-tech version of that too that you can use. It's print and then take a picture of the document that is now signed and then text that or email that to your administrator.
Thank you all. I'm going to bow out now until we get our next load of questions. So carry on. Thank you.
Greetings. Thanks again for joining us. Thank you, Willeen. So you are an administrator or a church conference secretary of some sort, and you have collected all the forms and worksheets that you have sent out to all the stakeholders that have filled everything out perfectly, and you are now ready to go into Arena and enter all that information. Now, I emphasize, we really want you to try and send those out first, get all the information back first before starting to enter things into Arena. We still have a 2-hour log out on Arena that will kick you out potentially if you're trying to enter things into Arena. So think if you're doing long form entry and it times out and you lose all that information, it's gonna be really frustrating. So try and always have a paper copy or a digital copy in the forms and worksheets before going to Arena. That's one of the reasons why we have that there for you. So you have all that back and you're ready to log in. So the first thing we're going to do is log back into the bwcumc.org website. Go to the very top center and you'll see a link for Arena. This link will be available on any page you navigate to on the conference website. So click on Arena. This will take you to a new window where you will see our landing page for Arena. Apologize for I'm logged in. So on the bottom left, you're going to see a "You are not logged in." Click here to log in if you have not already logged in previously. Sometimes it'll cache that and remember that you're logged in. But if you are not logged in, this is what you should see. So first thing you want to do is click on that and you'll see our login page. Now there are two separate kinds of accounts that we need to think about. There's a personal account, which is usually your first initial, your last name, and some identifying number if you have a very common name, or if you have multiple accounts sometimes too. That's going to be your personal account, typically used for logging into events, registering for events, filling out individual forms if you are a chairperson of a committee. Let's say you're the finance committee chair and you want to fill out your form. That's the login you'd use to get to that form. Or other various things throughout the year. Sometimes we ask you to pop into Arena and do. There's also the church account, which will be the first three letters will be BWC, as in Baltimore-Washington Conference, dash the 4-digit number that's associated with your church, dash a 2. We haven't changed these since we put them out a few years ago. If you don't know that identifier, there's a few ways, sorry, don't know that login for your church. There's a few ways to figure this out. Now the church account is going to be where we're going to log into to do our church conference forms, especially if you're an administrator tracking people doing their own forms or entering the forms yourself. Or if you're a pastor and you're trying to do the same thing. So the church administrator account is the kind of nexus in the hub where you can see all that. So if you do not know that username, you're going to click on Forgot Username. And here you need to enter the email address that is associated with the username. So typically we're hoping you have either a church administrator's account email address that's associated with it, or specifically a church account that's associated with it. If it's a personal account, that's fine too. Just make sure it's the right account that's associated with the BWC-church number-identifier administrator account for the church. So we're gonna use my email address as an example. And when I hit submit, I'll get an email with my username that's associated with this email address almost immediately. I usually have my email up in a live show that actually shows how fast it happens. But you're gonna hit submit and you'll get a confirmation that the ID has been emailed to you. Hit continue. Now with that ID, you can go back into the login page and I don't know the password to this now. So we're gonna click on Forgot Password. There we're going to enter the same email address and then you're gonna enter the username that was just emailed to you. And again, you'd hit submit. You'll get a confirmation and an email with a temporary password that'll expire when you try and log in. I'm not going to do it with mine just because I don't need to reset my own password. But when you have those two pieces of information emailed to you, then you're ready to log in. If you don't get an email, then you probably are using the wrong email address or it's not associated with the account that you're trying to use. So, and in that event, please contact us and we can help you out. That'll probably be the fastest way to do that. But we ask you, please use the Forgot Username and Forgot Passwords tools first before trying to contact us, because this is a really busy season and we want to make sure we're providing the best customer service to you as possible. The other thing to note is you'll see on my screen here, the username and password are actually saved here. if you're using Safari, Chrome, or Firefox, you probably have an option to save your username and password. These are usually, I'm saying usually because there's always some error that can happen, but usually safe enough to do in this situation. So I recommend actually saving your username and password unless it's a shared computer. So when you have that all together, click on Login, and you'll be brought to your homepage for that account. And you'll be able to see who you're logged in as in the bottom left. You're logged in as Acme UMC. So from here, we're going to go to our church conference forms. Now, right now, you'll see my church conference forms and my evaluation forms. We're going to ignore those. Those are not important for the church account. You don't want to use the my church conference or my evaluation forms. You only want to use the one that does not have the word my on it. We're hoping that this will be deleted before our church conference season starts up in full, and you guys have to start entering things. But for now, just ignore, imagine that they're not there. Those are going to be used for your personal accounts. So if you think my is me, not my is the church ones. So we're going to click on church conference forms. And I want to point out a few things here as we get started. You see basically the same thing that we will see on the back end. You'll have the option to start or edit an already started form. You'll see the label of the form. You'll see an option to print the form if it has been started or completed. And then you'll see the status of the form. Completed will be in green, incomplete will be in yellow, not started will be in red. So this will be really helpful, especially for an administrator or pastor that's trying to track other people doing forms. So if you have the SBRC chair and the finance chair and the trustee chair all doing their own forms, then you can track to see if they're completed by just logging into your church account and seeing if that's completed or incomplete or not started. And then you can bug whoever you need to bug. From here, we're going to scroll down to our finance committee report as our kind of test report. So you've received all the information. Let's say you're a church administrator. You received all the information from the finance committee chair. You're ready to edit. You go into edit or start. The forms will have many things that are carried over from last year or filled in from the generic information we have for the church. So for instance, the church name should be already filled in. If you don't see that, that might be an identifier that you may be logged into the wrong account. Many of the things that you've entered last year should also be pre-filled. So that we try and do that as much as possible to make that easier. One thing also to note, as Willeen said, anything that is red with an asterisk must be completed before you can actually submit the form. We'll get to that in a second. So as I was saying before, you want to be able to do as much copying and pasting as possible from a pre-existing filled in form. So have the form before you come here and try and fill out this on Arena. So in here, you'll fill it, all your information here. You get to a spot where you need to upload a document. So this one already has a document uploaded, but the word is going to stay the same on even if there isn't one there. So you're going to click on change. You'll say change file if there's already one in there, or just choose file if there isn't one in there already. So click on choose file. You'll be able to go in there and you can see all sorts of different documents. You upload the document. When you see the label of the document that you want to upload right there, then you know that it's ready to be saved. And when you hit save, that actually will upload the document. So it's important to note, if you don't see a document icon or an image in the space where you uploaded it, it has not saved. So you might have to redo it again. Let's say you got the wrong one in there. All you have to do is hit remove. It's as simple as that. So you have all the information plugged into all the parts of the form, except you forgot one. So we're going to use an example. I'm going to delete the bank one, just to so you can see what happens when you get to the bottom. You think the form is completed. You hit submit. you will not get a confirmation, and it will bounce you to the first question that you have not completed. So, as I said before, every one of those red squares need to be filled in. So we're going to put bank in there again, and we get to the bottom. We're ready to submit, we think. If there is some part of the form that is not ready to be filled out and to be completed and submitted right now, you can put in progress. However, you still need to put something into those cells. So what I usually do is recommend putting like not applicable or not complete, or something to remind you to go back and fill it in. So if it's not ready, we hit in progress, hit submit, and you will receive a confirmation page that this form has been received. If you do not, the form has not been saved. Again, one of the reasons why I recommend always having that information that you can copy and paste in there, as opposed to having to fill it out right in Arena. Because if you don't get this and you try and go back, it may not refill those things that you've already filled in. So once you have completed the document you need to submit, we can go back to church conference forms, and we can see I was working on that finance committee report. It's changed from completed to in progress. So that should do it for my part. I'm going to turn this over to Christine, who will walk us through the certified lay servant and lay speaker lay ministry reports.
So you think, John, once again, you are offering excellent information, and that always generates questions. And we have some of the best question askers, particularly around who uses what accounts and what forms. For example, several of my clergy colleagues have asked, do we use our personal account for filling out forms, or do we use the church account for filling out forms? What say you, John?
So you, as a pastor, you can use your personal account for filling out forms, but it'll only work for your pastor's report, and will only work for anything specifically pertaining to you as pastor. However, if you need to fill out forms that are not pertaining to you directly, you will need to log into the church account. That's why we call it the administrator account, because it's as though an administrator is taking all those forms and filling them out on behalf of the stakeholder that would normally be doing that. There is one exception. No, I believe all forms should be accessible through here, with the exception of the evaluation. So the evaluations are discriminated in a different way.
Okay.
But for church conference forms, the administrator should be able to see all the forms that are submittable.
And so if somebody's in our training tonight and they are giving instructions to the leadership in their church, do they tell them to fill out church conference forms or my church conference forms? I heard you mention that, but there seems to be some confusion still. Understood.
So if you're logging into your personal account, you'll be using my church conference forms, as in personal my. If you're logging into the church account, again, that's the BWC/4-digit number /identifier, that's going to be church conference forms. Forget the my.
And let's see. Oh, somebody followed your instructions and requested a new username. And they were sent an email with 2 other people who are no longer with the church. So who do they contact to get that?
So in an event like that, definitely contact the district administrator. So one of the problems we have, and one of the things we ask all pastors and administrators to do, is don't use the same email address for multiple people's accounts. Even if you have to create a generic Gmail account that says Acme UMC Finance Chair at gmail.com, create a specific email for that chairperson if they don't want to use an email address. So what would likely happen is that the person had a shared email address with multiple other users. And so you're getting all those users' accounts now. Okay. And you had mentioned the different programs that you can use, Safari, Chrome. What about computers? Can you fill out the forms on a Mac or a PC, tablets? Yes. So there may be some compatibility issues if you are on a Mac and you don't have Microsoft Office installed on that. However, Microsoft Office works, we've been able to get it to work online. So there are a couple options that you can use for if your computer does not have Microsoft Office installed directly on it. Office Online and Google Docs actually will work for many of these forms as well. However, most computers will have those pieces of software. It's only Excel, only Microsoft Word, and I believe we have maybe a PDF in there, but there should be nothing else that will be causing any incompatibility issues.
And who can log into the church account? Can anybody with the password and username?
Unfortunately, yes. So, which is one of the reasons why we think it's very important to make sure that only the pastor and only a single designated individual can log in with that. Try and keep that as secure as possible, because you don't want to have multiple people logging into that account beyond the church and a single administrator or other stakeholder like that.
Okay. And last but not least, John, you had mentioned that every line has to be filled out with something, and you can use not applicable, but what if they're looking for a number?
For a number, just put 00000 for things that you're going to come back and replace. We ask you not to put in multiple zeros or multiple nines for things that actually need something, and that's only as a place filler. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. So if unsure, put zeros, but if it needs to have something definitive, ask somebody. And if you don't know the answer, I always say, ask your DA. They know everything. With that, we're going to turn it over to Christine, who's going to walk us through Lay Servant Ministries. Good evening, Christine. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us. As Bill said, I'm going to be reviewing the Certified Lay Servant, Lay Speaker, and Lay Minister reports. To be in good standing, each Certified Lay Servant and Certified Lay Speaker must complete an annual report in ARENA and take a recertification class every year. If you are a Certified Lay Minister, you must complete an annual report and certify every 2 years. There are 3 lay minister reports. We have Certified Lay Servant, Certified Lay Speaker, and Certified Lay Minister. It is important that you complete the report that pertains to you. If you are unsure about your status, please talk to your church administrator or your district administrator. If you start the Certified Lay Speaker report and find that you do not have the correct documents, then you may be a Certified Lay Servant and need to complete that form. If it is your first year completing a Certified Lay Servant or Certified Lay Speaker form, you can use the worksheet on the church conference webpage and gather the information that you will need before completing the form in ARENA. If you have completed one in the past, you can log into the ARENA system and go to My Church Conference Forms and select Start. The information will carry over, so you will only need to update the form. This also includes any certificates that you uploaded in the previous year. They will also now be attached to this year's report. To be considered a Certified Lay Speaker, you will need to complete the required 6 courses. So now let's take a look at the Certified Lay Servant report. The information you put in last year should carry over to this year. This includes the certificates. Important to note, if you do not have an actual certificate for a class, please contact your district director of Lay Servant Ministries. It is important that you have the actual certificate to upload into the system. As we scroll down, you will be asked when you took your first basic and your first advanced, and all of these will require you to upload your certificate. Then it will ask you to upload your most recent advanced course, and for those of you who were recently certified, your most recent advanced course may also be your first advanced course. Then you will need to add the date and title and upload the certificate. Now, loading a document in the Certified Lay Servant report is a little different than uploading a document in any of the other ARENA reports. So let's click on change, and you will see that we are now requesting additional information. You have the option to select what kind of document you are uploading, and you get to create a title. I suggest adding the class name as the title and putting in a description. If you are uploading a new document, you would select Choose File, and this will take you to your computer files, from where you will select your file and then click Save. You have now successfully uploaded your certificate. Now, if we scroll down to the bottom, we can complete the rest of the report. If you are still collecting information, you can select In Progress and submit. If you select In Progress, however, everything in red with an asterisk needs to be answered before you make your selection and click Submit. You can use a placeholder until you have all of the information. If you have completed your report, please select the Complete button, then click Submit, and you will see on the screen a thank you for your submission. Once you have completed the report, click and print to retain for your records. On the Certified Lay Servant Report in Section 2, Question 4 is new. It will ask you to provide a date for your application for certificate. Your certification as a certified lay servant was completed and sent to the District Director of Lay Servant Ministries. You will then be asked to upload the certificate you received from your District Director. If you do not have a certificate, please contact your District Director of Lay Servant Ministries for instructions on how to get one. I will now turn it over to my region mate, John.
You're muted, John. Are you still going to be talking about Lay Servant Ministries?
No, I am not. We have a new
Okay,
topic.
I'm gonna pause you for a second because Christine, guess what?
Questions.
Questions. So Rose has asked that she is a certified lay minister, but why does she have to upload her Go Preach certificate every year?
So in previous years, you had to upload your certificates every year. The good news is, with the uploading of the certificates last year, they should now appear in your report for this year already. They will have been ported over from last year.
Excellent. Now, what about a church that doesn't have any lay servants, but they have a candidate who wants to become a certified lay servant? Is there anything for them to fill out this year?
No. The report is only filled out by those who have earned the certification of a certified lay servant, speaker, or minister. So if you are in the process of becoming certified, there is no report for you to complete at this time.
Now, here is the biggest question.
Okay.
Lots are up for renewal in 2020, but everything's been shut down due to COVID-19. What's a person to do?
So what I'm going to do, we're going to defer that question because we will be having a Lay Servant Ministries Training Tuesday next Tuesday at 7. And Linda Flanagan, along with some of our district directors, and I believe the district administrator for Frederick, Tanya, and myself will be on that training. And so those questions will be answered at that time.
Okay, so I'm going to put this blanket out there for all of you who are asking about Lay Servant Ministries. Write your questions down, hold on to them. I know it's going to be a great training Tuesday, next Tuesday at 7. So stay tuned for that. All of those questions and more will be answered. So thank you for that plug and for reminding us, Christine, about that training next week. And registration is live for next week's Training Tuesday about certified lay servant ministries. So with that statement, you just handled all your questions, Christine, and John can take it away from there. So thank you.
Thanks, Christine. All right, our next piece is going to be talking about our My Committee Toolbox. This is the nominations report for your church conference session. So back on our church conference homepage, we're going to go down to the bottom of the blue box and say My Committees. Here, we are going to be able to edit and perfect our nominations report. But this is also the live report, live tools that we're going to be using to identify who is a SBRC or other committee chair or members for your church at any point in time. So this is really vital for us in order to be able to communicate effectively with your church and your leadership, to have accurate, active members and chairpersons in these committees. Now, we do request that at least the 9 key leaders are in there. But there are, we invite you to add as many people as are willing to be listed on your reports as possible. So, looking at the Committee Leader Toolbox landing page, you're going to see all of the committees that are possible for a church. Now, you don't have to put anyone in that does not exist in a specific committee. So if you don't have an education committee, you don't have to add anyone in there. So disregard that. For our purposes tonight, we're going to look at our SBRC committee as an example. Before we get down there, though, I want to show you a couple things. So this button up here, we're going to come back to this, but this is a super quick way of pulling your 2021 nominations report. After you've completed everything in the toolbox for church conferences, everything is accurate for the 2021 year, you can pull your report right from here. There are 2 other reports, though, that might be helpful to you throughout the year. The current members. So if you're looking for a roster of who is currently listed as an active member in any committee, you can grab that one right there. Or if you're just looking for a roster for any future members, so people who do not have a current active membership in a committee. You also have another tool for if you have a committee on here that doesn't fit any of the labels. Like there might be committees that you might be able to finagle into one of the categories that we provided here if you've got a different name for it but does the same thing. But if you do have a committee that doesn't fall into that category, we provided a tool for you to create a new roster in that way. So going down to the SBRC committee as our example, go ahead and click on that. You will notice a couple things. Our member list is going to currently show all the active members, and we know that because the active only button is toggled. If we untoggle that, you will see any members that have ever been on this or ever will be on this. So Jim Bob here is an inactive member, and we see that listed here for us. All the folks that don't have inactive on it are current members. So our task today is going to be to remove people that are going to be coming off on December 31st, 2020, adding new people that are coming on to on January 1st, 2021, and adding a new person today that's just started. So first thing we're going to do is go to Jake Doe, who's going to be coming off this year. We click on his name, we're going to see a little bit more information for him and an edit button. Go ahead and click the edit button, and we'll see a way to change the information for this. Now we're asking you not to change any information on here that you don't know has been changed. So if you think that the email address is wrong or something like that, check with the person before you change anything. But if all you need to do is end the person's tenure for 2020, you're going to go down to Date Inactive, click on it, and we can select on here or we can just type it in, but we're going to go to December 31st of 2020. Hit Save, and you'll now see that Date Inactive has appeared in his other attributes. And come January 1st, 2021, he will now be listed as inactive. All right, so Jake Doe is taken care of. Now Jim Bob is a previous member of the committee that's coming back onto the committee as the chairperson. So what we're going to do is click on Jim Bob. We see that he has date joined and stuff like that already. We're going to click on the edit button. Now this is from a right now is saying that he's starting in 2021, but let's say he originally had a date back in January 2020, and he came off. He had a long vacation. He had to go and do something and wasn't able to continue on the committee. So he ended in July of 2020. If I save that, he'll be inactive as though he was not on the committee now. So in here, all we need to do to change his date to make him active for 2021 is give him a start date of January 1st, 2021, and an inactive date of nothing if you don't know the inactive date, or you can choose an inactive date for the future. So let's say you use the roster system where they will only be on a committee for 3 years. You can set the inactive date now so you don't have to think about it 3 years down the line. Or you can leave that blank if, as I know, sometimes a person will stay on the committee for a long time. The other thing you'll need to make sure that you're taking care of is the role the person's playing. So if the person's coming on as committee chairperson, the system will default to the committee chairperson. But if he's only going to be a member, make sure you go down to member. If I can find it here, I apologize. Committee member, sorry. If he's just going to be a committee member, you have to select it. Otherwise, it'll default to committee chair. When you're done editing Jim Bob, hit save. And now he will become an active member as of January 1st, 2021. Sorry, I messed that up. January 1, 2021. There we go. So you'll notice he is currently listed as inactive. Now we want to add someone else, but they are new to this committee entirely. They've never been on this committee. So we're going to go down to the very bottom and click on new member. We're going to need to have an accurate first name, last name. So Jim Doe. An email address will be required. So, and then we're trying to get as much accurate information as possible. This is one of the culprits that creates one of our most hated things, the duplicate account. So we're asking people to give as much possible information, because just because they weren't on this committee doesn't mean that they don't have an arena account. So if we're able to add a birth date or a home or cell phone number or even address, this can help to ensure that this entry gets connected back to a pre-existing account. And that way we don't have multiple accounts for that same person. So if you have a birth date, feel free to throw it in there. And then any other information that they're willing to divulge. Now, I just want to make sure you guys understand, we don't sell any information. The information you input into Arena stays entirely in the conference. It doesn't get shared with anyone outside of staff. And the only reason we use any of this information specifically is to identify an account. The only thing that is ever relevant information is really email address and name and phone number for us to contact you. Everything else is basically just an identifier. So again, you're going to add the date joined as to whenever they're going to join the committee. So this person's actually going to be joining as of Saturday last week, Saturday, August 1st, because they wanted to join the committee now because you know, there's an opening in the committee and he volunteered. And we don't know when they're going to come off the committee, so we're going to leave that one blank. Now, when we add this person as a member, they're going to come up as active in this committee. Close these guys down. You see Jim Doe right here. So this is the person we just put in there. And you'll notice I didn't change his role. He is now the committee chair and president. So if you make an error or something like that, you can go right back in there and edit whatever you need to edit. All right, so we are done with this committee. We just repeat the same process for each one of our committees. Then we're going to go back to My Committees. And now is the time when we can print the nominations report. You're going to take this report after it's filled in. You can verify that everything's correct. Go back to church conference forms. Scroll down to the nominations report instructions. Click on edit. Add that document just like we would have done this before, and hit complete. And the reason this is important, I know a lot of our churches wind up having to perfect their nominations report over a period of time. So if we can't see that your nominations report is complete, then we're not going to know that it's done, and we're not going to know that that information is accurate. So as soon as you guys have the information, make sure you pop it into here and let us know. And with that, I am going to turn it back over to Tanya.
With that, you're going to answer some of the list of many questions. We're just going to get into this pattern. There will be questions. After each one of you speaks, trust me, there will be questions, some more than others. John, if you can come up with a great response of Christine, see next week's presentation. This will be quick, but I don't think we've got that.
No.
So we've had several questions. We spent a lot of time, I know this year, encouraging churches to look at and adopt the single board model. So if a church adopts the single board model, how do they fill out those forms? How do they match up the rotations? Can you speak a little bit about that?
So I don't have a ready one stamp answer for that. I know that we've encouraged a lot of folks to place the people with the specific responsibilities into the chairperson position in the committees that they would have corresponded to in a normal model. So that way, if we're just trying to reach out to the person responsible for finances, then they would be called the finance chair, even though they're in the single board model.
So let me make sure I'm understanding correctly. So if I use the four of you, or you are my single board, we decide as a board, John, you're going to be in charge of finance if the conference has a question. Tanya's going to be in charge of pastor parish if there's a question. Christine's going to be responsible for everything else if there's a question. Willeen is going to be responsible for trustees if there's a question. And then we just plug your names into the chairperson role.
Precisely.
And it's really just for the purposes of if there's a question that someone from the annual conference needs to reach out.
Right. And then for reporting to us about the actual committee makeup, that's where you can use, again, I was mentioning that tool under my committees for the roster reporting tool.
Okay.
That might be a useful tool for reporting it, depending on how your single board model is shaped.
Now, when you began your part of the presentation, you mentioned 9 positions. What were they again?
The 9 key leaders. I apologize. I should have had that queued up for us to talk about. Give me 30 seconds here. It's actually mentioned on our church conference checklist. So I'm going to go right back to that real quick. Forgive me if I am wrong. I think I'm wrong. I apologize.
I have it. Do you want me to go ahead with it, John?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. We have it as church council chair, council on ministries chair, finance chair, the treasurer, the lay leader, the lay member to annual conference, the missions ministry chair, the SPRC chair, and the trustee chair.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Tanya. A couple of other questions. We have a church. You've just listed 9 key leaders, and they have 10 people in their congregation. How does that work?
Many people are going to take on the multiple roles. That's my experience with a lot of churches that are small in number.
And I would suggest reaching out to our Director of Leadership and Congregational Development, Reverend Dr. Rodney Smothers, to talk about the one board model, which works well in many of our smaller churches as well as medium and larger churches, but that's an option for churches.
Absolutely.
Of course, he's texting me now, so hopefully I'm not getting into too much trouble. How about when there's when an officer or a member of a committee dies during their term of service? Is
That's a
that the
great,
is that the inactive date? The first question is that the inactive date you put in? The second question, kind of a follow-up, would be, when do you change that person? At church conference or at another time?
no, so as I was saying, that this is a live tool. So we want you to update this as soon as someone changes their position or as soon as you know. This will help us with communication. And specifically with a person who's passed on, the best way to do that is put it on the date that the person passed. And also with that kind of information, make sure you communicate that back to the district administrator so that we know that we can take them off of Arena. Because one of the more heartbreaking things to do is to send emails out to someone who has already passed on, and maybe someone's caring for their digital life, and they keep getting emails from us. That's incredibly annoying. I understand that. So the best way to make sure that doesn't happen is to use that end date and communicate with the DAs about that.
And what if somebody doesn't have an email address and never will?
So this is what I was saying before. It's really important, try and have a discrete email address that is for the position, or if the person has a family member that's actively involved with their life, even asking them to use an email address like that, and perhaps the daughter, son, brother, sister may be able to pass the email on to the person. We are growing into an increasingly digital world, and it's inescapable now to have to use the computers and email to communicate effectively. So we're asking everyone to at least have something there that can be checked by someone that will be able to get back to the responsible chairperson.
Thank you so much, John. Now we'll continue, and there will be questions, so carry on.
Indeed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, now we are going to move on to the compensation report. And where we're going to start will be our website, the vwcumc.org, on the church conference landing page. The compensation reports are Excel spreadsheet. That's where we're going to start. So right now we are going to pull up a multi-point church charge compensation. We do have some that are for the single church. So the single church, if you are by yourself on a charge, you would complete that form. If you are on a multi-point charge or share a pastor, you can use the multi-point charge. If you are on a multi-point charge, you have to use the multi-point charge form, okay? If you have any questions, you can contact your district administrator and they can help you. Please read all the instructions carefully. That is very important to do that. So what I'm going to do is we're going to start with the multi-point so I can show you how to do the breakdown at the end. The single church is very similar. At the top of the page, you're going to input the pastor's name, their email, phone number, and their church phone. You will also need to add the charge name, district, and church number, along with the name or names of your church. Then you're going to let us know who submitted the report in case we have any questions. You'll see at the top up there, it says 4-digit BWC ID number. So you're going to put in your church number, then you're going to put in the full church name, and then you're going to put in the short name. You'll see as we go on that the short name is what's going to carry over and follow us throughout the report. We're going to move on to section 1, where we will be looking at the salary paid to the pastor. First, we will enter the pastor's cash salary to be paid in the upcoming year. Here we will show that Church A is paying $50,000 and Church B is going to pay $20,000, and it will auto-calculate on the right for $35,000. The self-employment tax, only add the amount if the church contributes towards the pastor's self-employment tax in addition to the base salary. Other compensation. Does the church provide a gym membership, a car, anything of that sort? If so, add it here. If the church will receive equitable compensation support in 2021, you will add that to line 4. Then on line 5, you'll see other support. Will the church receive support from the conference, the region, the district in 2021? This does not include equitable compensation. nor does it include amount paid for pension or medical benefits. In our example, we are only going to use cash salary and then move on to section 2. In section 2, we will look at health and benefits. This section should only be completed if the church is paying the health or pension on behalf of the pastor. If these amounts come out of the pastor's paycheck as a payroll deduction, they are paid directly to the conference, then they do not belong in the compensation report. These options in this section are after tax UMPIP or Roth. All of these are optional. Pre-tax UMPIP, flexible spending account contribution, health flex premiums, which is the conference's health insurance. Now we're going to stop here for one moment. If your pastor has health insurance through the conference, then your church will be billed $10,680 in 2021. This amount does not belong on the report. Only add an amount to this line if the church is covering the pastor's portion of medical and it is not being taken out of their paycheck as a payroll deduction. Most mistakes that we find on this report are found here in section 2, and most that are found in section 2 are found on this line. So again, it is important that you do not include the $10,680 billed to the church. The last item in this section is other insurance premiums. Are you covering the pastor's portion of other health insurance, disability, life insurance, anything of that sort? If so, please add it. But again, if it's coming out of their pay, please leave it out. Most sections are left blank in section 2. So we're going to move on to section 3, which is housing. Does your pastor live in a parsonage? If you were to say yes, then you would put a yes instead of the no. Just use the drop down. And you'll see that that will change the housing allowance as not applicable. In this example, we're going to say no. Okay, if the pastor does not have a parsonage, then you will select no and add the housing amounts. In our example, you'll see that Acme UMC is paying $10,000 and generic is paying $10,263. $20,263 right now is the housing allowance for a full-time pastor. That's the minimum housing for the full-time pastor. Next, you will see a summary showing the pastor's salary and housing. Right now at the bottom, you'll see that the total is $56,263, I believe. If this looks wrong, please go back to the top and try again until it looks right. As we keep going, you will add the pastor's reimbursement amount for 2021. The minimum for a full-time pastor is $4,100. Okay. We will show that Acme is paying $2,000, generic is paying $2,100, which again equals the minimum of $4,100. Okay, worksheet 5. This one is very important because this is how the pastor's pension and health will be calculated. The pastor's conference relationship, is your pastor a full elder, a local pastor, a provisional elder, deacon? If you do not know this answer, please ask the pastor before completing the report. In our example, we will use local pastor. Next question, appointment status. Is your pastor full-time, 3/4 time, half-time, or quarter-time? Please select their appointment status. If you're filling out this report and do not know that answer, please again talk to your pastor. If they don't know, please contact us. You will see we're going to select quarter-time, that the pastor is not eligible to receive CRISP, CPP, or Health Flex through the conference. You'll see that in the chart below. Now, if we change their appointment status to half-time, you will see, full-time. Thank you, John. You will see that they are now required to have CPP, CRISP, and Health Flex. But then we will move on to the next box. Using that information, we are going to select, are they going to participate in CRISP? In this case, it's mandatory, so we're going to put yes. Okay. Once you go further down, you'll see a box showing the church's complete financial obligation. In the single church compensation report, if that's what you're using, you will be done with the spreadsheet, and then we will move on to putting it into Arena. But since we're using the multi point charge report, you have one more step. What you need to do is add how much each church will pay towards the health and benefit of the pastor. For the health insurance, you're going to see that church A is paying $5,000 and you still have $5,680 left over. If you make generic pay that amount, you will now see it turns to green and a yes. That is what you're looking for. Okay. At the bottom, you will see the church's financial obligation for the pastor. So Acme would be $36,600 and they would be paying 40% of this pastor's salary. Once you are done, you're going to, I say print and get signatures, but you can do it electronically. Get signatures. You need it for the pastor, the SPRC chair, the treasurer, or the finance chair. Okay, if you could get those signed, if you have a multi-point charge, you would need each church to sign this unless they are part of a larger group. Okay. You are now done with this part of the compensation. What we're going to do now is move to Arena. Once you're logged into...
But you're not done yet, Tanya,
Right.
with this part of the presentation.
We have one more section. Go ahead.
Okay, as long as it's related to compensation, because those questions came fast and furious.
Nope, I understand. Yeah, one more section. We're just going to put it into Arena and then we're done. Next, we're going to show you how to put it into Arena. You're going to go down to the clergy's compensation summary. You're going to hit start or edit. You're going to use the information from page 5 or 6 of your compensation report, and you're going to fill out this report. So we want the name, the first name, last name. You know, do you have a parsonage, the total cash? Now, we are not looking for a breakdown for multi-point churches. We're looking for the total numbers on the right-hand side of page 5 or 6. You're then going to upload the entire document, which is about 5 or 6 pages. And then you're going to hit in progress or complete and then submit. Now I'm done.
You finished just as I was taking a drink.
Sorry.
Okay, so here are our compensation questions. Particularly, so let's start with the 2-point charge because you walk through that form. In a 2-point charge, is there a specific church that should report the pastor's compensation? If one reports it, will the form be automatically completed for the other? How does that work of who should fill out the forms?
Yes, so if you're a part of a multi-point charge, it would be the lead church that would need to upload it. Only the lead church would have access in Arena.
Okay, now, how about for a pastor that is serving 2 churches, but that are not a 2-point charge?
So they have an option. They can either fill out 2 single compensation reports, or they could fill out the multi-point charge report. If they want to put the money together and see what the pastor's health and pension will be using the total compensation, they should fill out the multi-point charge form and upload it into both churches.
Okay, understood. Now, here's an interesting question because, again, we find ourselves in a unique place in history, and we can honestly say we've never done it this way before. When should an SPRC approve the clergy compensation, considering that annual conference hasn't yet met to approve some of that information?
That is a great question, and I do not have that answer at the moment. We will have to add that to the FAQs.
If there's a need for an FAQ, if not, reach out to your district administrator later this week or next week, and they should be able, if they can't give you an answer, I know they will be able to point you to the person who can. Let me check now. If somebody just started July 1st, do they use those same numbers for 2021, or will there be new compensation numbers that they would use?
They can use those same numbers since they just started July 1, but that's a conversation between them and the church.
Okay. And last but not least, and I'll go through some more. How, and this is a general question, how will, I know we'll be submitting forms ahead of time, and I know all of the forms are due on October 1st this year, but how will the completed forms that are usually handed to the district superintendent at the charge conference be handled?
So we are asking that everything be signed ahead of time and uploaded into Arena. We will be able to see everything on the back end, and
Okay.
we will be able to pull out the information that we need from there.
Excellent. And I did say last but not least, but I was incorrect because I missed one. Will there be any sample forms that have already been filled out like you're doing tonight? Will there be sample forms available people can refer to?
That's a good idea. We do not have any yet, but we can see what we can come up with. Yep.
Well, then I am going to give Michelle H. a shout out for asking that question. And so thank you for your responsiveness, Tanya and our other DAs, and carry on and continue.
Okay, we only have a few more items before we wrap up. A couple reminders. You should not mail anything to the district office unless asked to do so by your district administrator or your district superintendent. We are looking, it's very important that every church put in a church administrator or a pastor's administrator. I believe we are going to kind of lock the church accounts at the end of evaluation season. We're going to do that because the church account names are being changed. So we are going to use church administrator and pastor's administrator to complete all of the church conference and evaluation forms starting in 2021. So it's important you put somebody in there this year. The pastor's report and the congregational profile were updated today. Please take time to look over them again today or tomorrow going forward. If you printed it off before now, please go back and look at that information. Also, we hope that your membership reports this year will prioritize contact and connection with members, especially during the pandemic, rather than removal of members from the rolls. Review your membership report from last year and consider the present situation, focusing on member outreach more than on member removal. That is all I have. Thank you very much.
I was going to say, talk amongst yourselves. I was answering questions. So I'm going to go through, first of all, thank you. You all win for Training Tuesday timeliness. So as we're going to go through some of the questions, I'm going to do something I've done a couple of times. I did say to everybody that the chat feature is closed to attendees, and it usually is, but I'm going to open it up for a moment just so our attendees can say thank you for your hard work in doing our presentation tonight and for what is going to be your busy season as charge conferences are taking place. So if you all can just give a word of thanks to our district administrators who are present on the call. I know a lot of them are also attending, and they are working just as hard. These ones just drew the short straw and had to be on camera tonight. So take a look, ladies and gentlemen, and you can see all the thank yous that are pouring in from around our annual conference. We have over 700 people on tonight's webinar, and I know they are grateful for the work that you have done and are doing. So a couple of questions. Going back to the PowerPoint, in the PowerPoint, it talked about candidates for ordained ministry. However, nobody discussed that. What do we need to know about candidates for ordained ministry in terms of church conferences?
Well, the candidate would complete the form that is on the website, the paper form that is on the website. And then they would send it to their church administrator, who would go into Arena, and we have a space for 5 candidates. If you have more than that, please add it to a document and send it to your district administrator along with the forms that you receive. What's important is that you go back after your church conference. When you take minutes, which by the way, minutes are due, and they're also uploaded to Arena within 10 days. Whenever you're taking your minutes, please note how many yeses and how many no's are taken during the vote. You're then going to go back into Arena and you're going to put this information into Arena.
Excellent, thank you. Going through some of these, I'm just looking just to make sure. So a lot of the questions were answered, and I would just say for people, if your question specifically was not answered, then reach out to your district administrator. They are very responsive. I will tell you that even during this season of teleworking, they are always working. So we are grateful for the ministry they provide to our annual conference and to our districts. So reach out to them. For those who have asked about the recordings, this is being recorded. It will be available later this week. For those who wish to register for next week's Training Tuesday, you can go to the conference website. Under events, click on Training Tuesday. Look for the one that mentions lay servants, and that will take you to the Arena registration site where you can register for that. If you can't find that, or if there is a problem, you can always reach out to me. My email address is bbrown@bwcumc.org. So with that, we're going to say goodnight after we close out with a word of prayer. So if you all would pray with me, please. Holy and gracious God, we give you thanks for the ministry of administration that is done so well in our annual conference, thanks to our DAs. We ask for your continued blessing on their work and ministry within the life of our annual conference, and your blessing upon all of those who have participated tonight as we enter into this season of church conferences. As we enter into our annual conference season, we know you have gone before us. You have prepared us, and you walk with us. So as we close out for our evening, oh God, just be with us, guide us, protect us. We ask this all in the name of Jesus. Amen. Good night, all. Thank you for coming. Thank you very much, John and Tanya and Christine and Willeen. Have a good night, everyone.